Welcome to Sales Momentum, the podcast designed to fuel your growth and accelerate your success in sales. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host and guide through the ever-evolving world of sales. Selling isn't just about closing deals. It's about strategy, relationships, and continuous improvement. In each episode, we will bring you expert insights, proven techniques, and real-world experiences from top sales professionals. Whether you're a seasoned closer or just getting started, this podcast will help you sharpen your skills, build momentum, and hit your targets with confidence. Let's dive in and take your sales game to the next level. Welcome back to Sales Momentum. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host. And today, I'm really glad you're joining us because we're going to talk about security and not just, there's many different ways to look at security. Obviously, there's security for your home, there's security for your well-being, but obviously there's also security for your company's digital life and everything that goes on with their computer systems and their website and everything that they hold near and dear to them that they don't want anyone having their eyes or hands in. And to ensure that, you have to have the right secure systems, putting a digital wall around everything and acknowledging when there are issues and problems and invaders. And to do that, you have to have the right companies helping you with this. And I'm very excited about our guest because not only is this what she's doing now, but she's been doing this for quite a while in her career and really understands all the different aspects of cybersecurity. And her name is Marsha Dempster. She's the Vice President of Channel Sales from Securonix in Chicago. And Marsha, welcome to our conversation today.
Hi, Howard. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited as well because it really is, I wouldn't call it a mystery to me because I definitely understand the concepts of it, but it's just the invisible pieces that are there to protect a company are really significant and really very technical and are working very hard every day to block invaders and people trying to hack into systems, and even internally what some may or may not want to are trying to do that the companies don't want them to be doing. So your companies, your products really have a very big hand in making sure business flows every day.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah. Like it's very overwhelming when you try to think about cybersecurity as a concept because there are so many moving parts to it. Like you said, it's not a one-stop shop solution. And to your point, there are so many things going on behind the scenes at any given organization, small, medium, large enterprise. You know, there's all kinds of different things needed to have a stable cybersecurity resilience practice. And that could include a SIM, a SOC, credential management. Like there's all of these things that are happening behind the scenes that, you know, your day-to-day employees at any company might not even realize how much is going on behind the scenes to keep their emails safe, to keep their data safe, to keep any kind of project information safe or any kind of technical information that you don't want released. So there's all of these things that cybersecurity teams are doing in the background that people don't see. And it is this weird mystery world, and there's lots of acronyms and all that stuff, but really it's become this thing that we have to talk about. I mean, you're right. Like it is such a timely thing. We hear about it in the news every day, but it is so important for companies to have a strong cybersecurity practice, especially in this day and age.
Now, you've been in it for a while. I know I having one son that's a freshman in college, one son that's approaching college. Cybersecurity is a topic that comes up of, that's a career you need to go in. There's great benefits, there's great salaries. It would be perfect, but you obviously got into it only a little while ago. Even though you have a solid, nice, lengthy career in the industry. So how did you find your way into the industry?
Well, first of all, you're such a gentleman. Yes, I started my my journey in technology back in 2004. I graduated from Michigan State, and at the time, CDW, who's a very large VAR here in the Chicago area, was recruiting pretty heavily from Big Ten schools. And they came to Michigan State, and I was like, what do I know about technology or sales? But they did a nice job and a good presentation, and I was like, okay, I can practice my interviews and do all that stuff. And they brought us to Chicago. I was like, great. I don't want to, no offense to Livonia, Michigan, but I don't want to live here forever. So I'm going to move to Chicago. And I started as an account manager at CDW in at the time, it was their brand new small business practice. So now that's, 20 years old and they're very established, but I got to be a part of that in the beginning, which was cool. So yeah, straight up sales. Like this was cold calling, this was prospecting, this was, no inbound leads, like all of the things that are scary about sales. And it was one of those things where I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but like I can learn this. And like that would be my advice to anyone, especially, if your sons are thinking about getting into tech or getting into cyber, you can learn a lot, and there's plenty of resources and plenty of people, and you find a mentor, and you take some certifications. Like it sounds very overwhelming, but you can learn all of this stuff, and as you and I know, technology changes every single day, so we have to keep learning too. So it's not like you go to college for 4 years and you get your degree in computer engineering. By the time that 4 years is over, what you started with is probably not what they're using 4 years later. So, like, it is a constant learning thing. And I switched roles multiple times. That's the beauty of a large organization like CDW. I had multiple roles there. And then when I decided after 15 years at CDW, I decided to move on. I was in a leadership role, but it's harder to climb the ladder at a large enterprise. So I was like, okay, I should go to the other side and go to the vendor side. So I worked for a couple smaller cybersecurity companies and then landed where I am now at Securonix. And yeah, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
And it's great that you built knowledge along the way and developed a plan to do this. But it's always amazing the stories that I come across and the conversation I have about people start in sales where they are told, okay, this is the product you're selling.
Mhm.
This is the information you need to sell the product, but don't spend that time into teaching you actually how to sell and the whole process of selling. I know the first three sales jobs I had, there was absolutely no training whatsoever in any of them except for the product, of course. But it is all picking things up along the way or finding your own time to learn different tactics so you can succeed in these jobs.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And the enablement piece is so important. And if you're starting at a larger company, they usually have enablement teams. We have an enablement team. So every week we have sessions on upcoming product releases and, any kind of features that are coming out. Like we're always learning new things. And I think enablement is one of the biggest parts of sales in general. So you have to know what you're talking about. Then you have to enable, since I'm a sales leader, I have to enable the sellers on my team to be able to do their job. My sellers are usually talking to partners because I'm in channel sales. So, like, there's all of these different ways, all of these people are like collaborating and sharing information. And, we're working with this partner, but their customer is this. So we have to, you're moving mountains every day and trying to get the right people on the phone, the right people in the room, the right people to the table. That's a lot of that really falls back to, did you do your homework? Do you know the meeting you're walking into? Do you know the key people? Who are the decision makers? And do you know what you're talking about? Have you been enabled enough? Do you feel confident? Have you practiced, whether you're using a deck, whether it's on Zoom like us, or whether you're in a meeting room? have you practiced what you're going to say? Have you built in time for them to ask questions? And then what if they don't have questions? Like, you want to have some top of mind that you can say, well, you might be thinking this, and like give them a question almost to further the discussion. But you really do, it really is about being knowledgeable and being prepared and just putting your confidence hat on and getting in the room and getting it done.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess some of the younger companies may have the understanding that they have a need, and this
Oh
conversation is
yeah.
about filling that need, but they may not know what the questions that they really need to ask regarding that need. So it's great when the salesperson is prepared, but it's also good when they had not just have the company knowledge and the product knowledge, but the understanding of how to have the conversation, how to develop the talking points in advance, but also how to pull information out from the prospect so
Hmm.
that it becomes a conversation of questions that are being asked and answered and learning more in the process, so you
Yep.
can figure out the best way to close this clients and to provide them with what they're looking for.
Yeah, and a lot of times, some of the solutions that we're selling, like in my world, we sell SIM solutions. Um, that's a big lift. That is a huge technology. It is, there are lots of analytics and there's things going on behind the scenes, and we're checking for user behavior and threat detection and all these things. It's you know, it's not a small project. So you have to in your head know, like, okay, the sales cycle for this is going to be X amount of months, so I need to fill my pipeline to get me by until this one hits, and then this one hits, and then maybe this one doesn't hit. Like, do I have something else to fill in the pipeline? And that's when you're collaborating with your marketing team, with your partners, with your own internal sales team, with your sellers. What kind of account-based marketing are we doing? And in no way am I a marketing person, but I'm very fortunate that I work with a fantastic marketing team. So, a lot of times if it's a pipeline issue as far as sales, that's when you loop in your marketing team and say, let's get creative. Like, how can we get new partners or new prospects interested in what we're talking about? Should we do a webinar? Should we do an event? Like, that's where your friends in marketing are going to help you kind of cross that bridge from sales to closing a sale.
Yeah, because it's interesting because CDW used to do a lot of advertising because I'm more familiar with them from seeing commercials about them
Oh
over
yeah.
the course of time. I can't recall where I've seen one recently, but but a lot of the companies that you've moved to, they're not using TV and radio to make a statement and to get their brand out there. They're doing it in different ways that I guess within industry, people are understanding who they are, but it's that is a factor that the salesperson has to take into
Yep.
consideration about the level of networking they need to be doing and about of the conversations they're having outside to work their way into speaking to the right people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, getting to the right people is always the hardest part of a sale, right? So, like, you have to lean on those resources. You have to make sure you're asking the right questions, like, who's the decision maker? What does procurement look like? What is your legal process? Like, there's all of these things that go into a sale that are not just you, the salesperson, but you're bringing in your general counsel, like, please help me look at this contract. Can we sign this? You're bringing in marketing, you're bringing in, on our side, our implementation team and support team, and making sure that once a customer has purchased your technology, you're helping them get it stood up, making sure it works, making sure they understand it, and they're using it to the best of their abilities with our support.
Yeah, it's important to make sure you are doing that because it's I think all of us have been in a conversation where you kind of think you're speaking to the decision maker and you're getting pretty far in the conversation, and lo and behold, well, I need to speak to the CEO. Well, I'll have a conversation with them, and then we can circle back as opposed to giving you that invite or making that direct connection so you can have the conversation all over again, but at
Oh,
least you're having it with the right person.
You're absolutely right. Like that is such a key thing for like any sellers watching or listening to this. Ask those questions up front. Like it's not out of line to say who is the top decision maker, and like if we do, end up earning your business and get to procurement, what does that look like and what is the timeline for that? That's just you setting expectations and them setting expectations with you. Like there's nothing out of line by saying, what's your timeline for this project? Is this a second quarter deal, or is this a next year Q1 deal? Like there's nothing wrong with collecting those facts up front so you know what you're working with, instead of, which we've all been there, getting to the end of the sales cycle and you're like, okay, let's send the DocuSign, let's get the PO. And they're like, oh, we still have to push this through legal and procurement. Like I'm not the decision maker. And then you're like, that if that happens to me, I say that's my fault. Like I
Yeah.
didn't ask the right questions. And that's, you have to take accountability, and that's how we learn. And, any good sales leader would coach you and say, okay, so next time let's ask those questions up front so that we don't set false expectations saying, oh, I'm going to close this deal by the end of March. And then it's like, no, you're not. You're going to
Yep.
close it in June. Like, because then you're putting yourself in a pickle with your, if you roll up to a VP, or I roll up to the CRO, I don't want to tell him, you know I messed this up and this isn't a Q1 deal, now I have to push it out to Q2 or Q3. Like that's just not a conversation I want to have
Yep.
with him, even though he's lovely and he would understand. But those are the lessons we learned along the way. Like we've both been in this business for 20 plus years, and you learn things along the way. And I think it's really important to also, be compassionate with yourself and understand that you're not going to know everything right out of the gate. And like sales it's a career for some people. Like some people stay in sales forever and they do really well and they love it, and they're still learning stuff because like we said, the tech changes every day. So it doesn't matter if you're a salesperson and you're close to retiring, you're still learning because you have to in order to make a sale.
Everything you said is absolutely correct, and I smile a lot of it because remembering I used to work for Westwood One, so a national radio organization with it usually was a 6 month window on my pipeline for deals, and everything was specific with what quarter these campaigns were going to run.
Oh yeah.
So it really was a specific process, making sure you knew that at least they bought in. That's great. Now it's what quarter are we doing this deal? What markets we're doing it in? So all these different moving pieces that the salesperson needs to know. But it's always keeping your mind open again with the growth in not only just your industry, in the tools you have to sell with. Beginning of this week, I taught a few of my colleagues how to do voice recordings on LinkedIn as an opportunity to try to reach people in a different way. And someone sent me a link that I was quoting last week, where it's this AI having that first conversation sale, the
Yeah.
conversation to book the meeting for you, which is just mind-boggling, especially the
Yeah.
example where the person is saying absolutely no on the get-go, and somehow they've been able to get not just a meeting, but a sale in their example.
Right.
But it's fascinating what AI
Yeah.
can do to facilitate these conversations and get these relationships going.
Oh, for sure. And even like on the back end, like not just in the sales portion, but like we're using AI on our user analytics behavior. Like we're using that behind the scenes and not just in the sales cycle. Like, yes, Chat GPT can help you write an amazing prospecting email, but we also have AI technology behind our technology that's intuitive and that's picking up on user behavior and detecting threats and making sure like the behavior analytics are okay. And, is something spiking? Is there a threat? There's all of these things that happen behind the scenes that just, a lot of us don't understand because we're not engineers. Like I'm a salesperson, I'm a sales leader. I like to think I'm technical enough to have the conversation, but it really is about leaning on your resources. Like we have engineers for a reason. We have marketing for a reason. We have, channel partners for a reason. Like lean on those people and then lean on your leadership. Like ask for help if you need it. If you're struggling in a sales cycle, that means you're selling alone. And selling alone is never a good idea. Team selling over everything. Bring in your SE. If it's a channel deal, which I hope it is because I like channel sales, bring in your partner, like make them a part of the deal. Let them, because then you're educating them as well. And that's only going to continue to fill your pipeline. If you're
Yeah.
educating a partner, they can take this deal, this one deal that you did together, and they can turn it into 10 other deals because they've got 20 other accounts that might need the same thing. And that's kind of, the magic of partner sales. But sales in general is really like it is a team sport. Like you have to be able to be comfortable asking for help and knowing that you can't do it all on your own. And don't, be afraid to ping your boss and say, hey, I need some backup on this call. Like I do that to my boss all the time, and he will always join the call. And there's things that a C-level has way more practice saying than I do. So I'm learning stuff from him along the way as well. And that's really what it's all about for me. Like I think that sales is a constant learning curve. You're learning people, you're learning technology, you're learning business, you're learning, just social graces. And there, so much of our industry, Howard, is like going out to dinners and talking to partners and like going to these conferences and like you don't, you want to make a good showing. Like that's your brand. You want to like look the part and speak the part and but still be your authentic self and let people get to know you. Like I'm a relational seller. I think relationships go a long way and you can go back to those people and say, hey, we worked together on this. Now I'm over here. Like, do you have an appetite for this? Can I get in front of your team? That stuff works. Like it's all about people, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting because your answer went from AI to people all through it, and but which really covers the bases in sales in today's age.
It's
But
all those tools. You're exactly right. Like we have to, like we are so privileged that we have all of these tools and all of these resources. And I think, people are scared of it. People are scared of some of the AI stuff. And I totally understand that because we see some weird things. But for the most part, on our side, on the technology side, we're harnessing the power of AI to do good things. And I believe in that. And, I believe that enabling our sellers with more and more tools, whether it's chat GPT, whether it's additional training, whether it's more time in the field, or even just like team building exercises to get to know each other, building a solid team is how you get to the number. You want your team to respect each other, to like working with each other, making sure there's a culture fit, making sure everyone's getting time and feeling heard and feeling seen. That's how, like, you take care of your people, that number is going to get there. Like, we will get there together. And there is nothing on my teams that they do that I wouldn't do. Like, if they're getting on a plane, I'm getting on a plane. And as we talked about before, I feel like I live on a plane, but that's okay. That's the job.
yeah, it's interesting when you have the that travel that mixes into it, but it's all about the developing the right people along the way that work well as a team and even with the technology, and I laugh sometimes thinking about all this different technology. I think my first introduction really with sales was in the mid 90s, and I'm
Yeah.
there with my StarTAC phone, and that was the coolest technology of the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
but that wouldn't do anything right now. But building that team is important and trying to find the right people. So you've had leadership positions of all different incremental levels. How do you look at building the team and finding the right person and giving them the tools to be successful?
I mean, I'm definitely like a relationship person. I think that's why I gravitated to channel sales and not direct sales. So I lead with empathy and compassion. Like I want to get to know you as a person. Like, where do you live? What do you like to do? What are your goals? Like, how are you motivated? Because not all salespeople are fully driven by the almighty dollar. many of us are, but some people are just natural salespeople and they're like, I'm just good at this and I want to pay the bills and take some good vacations and take my kids to Disney World or whatever. Some people are more like, I'm starting in sales, but I want to move my way into leadership. Like if I know that going in, then I can help this person on their journey, on their career path. So when I'm doing an interview and I'm getting to know them and they're telling me about, this is my family life and this is, my travel schedule and this is what I've done in past roles and like all of that stuff really matters. I want to know what you did in your past job that made you successful. And I do want to talk to your references. Like, of course, we all submit references of people that are going to say nice things. But when I talk to those people, I'm also not afraid to say, like, did you see it? Were there any concerns or was there anything that you think this person should work on? And, that other leader is always happy to say, well, yeah, so and so is amazing, but they could work on their prospecting skills. So then I know that going in, like, okay, I like this person. I want to hire her or him. And one thing I'm going to have to remember is let's work on prospecting. Like, what are we doing for prospecting? What tools are you using? Well, like, building a good team is all about camaraderie and making sure that they trust each other and they work well together. And, I don't want any infighting, like, this is my deal. No, this is my deal. Like, that
Uh,
doesn't really, and I'm not giving myself credit for this. I'm giving my teams credit for this, that they are, these people are seasoned professional sellers. Like they're selling high end SIM solutions. They're adults, they are professionals, but they also trust each other as a team. And they're like, no, this is, like, I know this is my partner, but this falls in your patch. Like, you take this deal, I'll do this deal. You do this event, I'll do this event. Like, we're always kind of splitting our time. And there's nothing that they do that I wouldn't do. Like, we have channel partners next week. I'm going with them. Like, that it's important. That's a huge event for us. We have to meet with our partners and talk about our product and do the events. Like it never ends, but I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I find the travel to be a privilege, the fact that I get to go to these conferences and sometimes speak and, sit on panels and talk to people like you and just it makes a difference. And I think especially in sales where it's a little tricky for women in particular, like I want to make technology a safe space for everybody. Like I'm a firm believer in mentoring and leading with empathy, but at the same time, like this is still sales. Like we have a number to hit. Like I can love you very much, but like if we're not getting the number, then I'm going to get in trouble too. So I will dive in and we will try to tackle this together and make sure that everyone is as successful as they can be.
it's funny you mentioned that. You mentioned women because as my head started to calculate, and the most successful like people that I've come across within my working career in sales have been more women than men. And they really have accomplished at different places and at different types of sales, really incredible things. So,
I'd
and
love to hear that, Howard. We're gonna do let's do another session just about that because I want to know your findings.
yeah, it's interesting the difference, the stops I've had, but it's really great to see. It's because it's about the individual. It's not,
Yeah,
and working together as a team, there's great value because I've worked in both situations. I've worked in where people really mentored me early on and really didn't have to, but really took me under their wing to teach me certain things, and different places where everyone was out for themselves, including the sales director who micromanaged to a great fault
oh
in
yeah,
that experience. But it's really those that succeed and those because it's also trying to keep a team together. If you have
yeah,
people that are successful that like what they're doing, that are getting rewarded, that really get excited about coming in every day, they're going to stay with you for a while as opposed to having to keep finding new people and get them up to speed and
totally.
because that's going to your numbers are going to drop every time you have to make a replacement and
That's right.
budgets be damned, it's gonna happen that way.
That's right. And you're right. It's about building up your network. And if you leave one company to go to another, like So hopefully some of your best people will follow you, like if they're allowed to. A lot of times there's non-competes and stuff, but you know, it's always great, a few roles later or a couple companies down the road that you can be like, oh my gosh, we can work together again. Or like, are you looking? Like, you should come over here. Like that kind of stuff, like those kind of relationships, that can find you your next job, that can find you your next promotion. And what you said about mentors is so important because I've had the same experience. Like I've had really senior leaders take time out of their day to coach me and help me. But a lot of that is because I had to, you know, have some courage and go to them and say, hi, I'm like 7 levels below you, but I'm wondering if I could buy you a coffee and talk to you for 15 minutes and just hammer out some questions. And it's surprising how many of those people really will give you the time if you ask for it and if you have your questions ready. Like you want to be respectful of any executive, C-level, any of those people's time, a board member, a C-level. But if you really ask, if you come to the table and ask for help and you've got your stuff lined out, most of those people are going to say yes because they want you to do well because that helps them to do well. And then, we kind of pass it down the line and hope that everyone continues that behavior. But mentoring is so rewarding. And I would encourage everyone to not only take the time to be a mentor if you have the time to give, because it is, it's something you should take serious. If someone asks you to be a mentor, take that seriously and make sure you can give them the time that they need, but also continue to be a mentee like forever. Like I still have my mentors that I go to and say like, what do you think about this? Or can you proofread this email? Or you should never be afraid to ask for help. Like
Yep.
I think it's crazy that salespeople are like, I can do that. I don't need an SE. I'm going to do the demo. I'm going to do the POC. I'm like, then you're going to lose. Like, we have to do this together, like team selling. Let's do it. It works. I promise.
It definitely does, and it really ties everything together because sales is about relationships. It's not just a relationship with the prospect who then hopefully becomes the clients
Yep.
and develop that know, like, and trust with them, but it's also with your teammates and your team leader
Oh,
and
yeah.
trying to have those because those are the fun relationships. When it's a sales conference
Yes.
room and everyone's really enjoying each other's humor and company and can enjoy things like the NCAA tournaments and
Go
going
green.
up,
Hello. Yeah.
going bowling and whatever kind of group atmosphere you can do it, as opposed to I've also been to events where we're kind of all in our own little corners and where we're stuck in an event and it's not as fun as
Right.
that situation.
And I think like we were talking about COVID before we started, but it's so wild how like that kind of went away like for a couple years that we couldn't get together and we didn't have the conferences and the face to face. And I feel like now we're really getting back to it. Like you said, the NCAA tournament is starting today, and I went to Michigan State, so go green. But like, there's all kinds of activity happening. Like I have a partner event later for March Madness, and like that's getting people in a room and like having fun and reconnecting. But it's also an opportunity to say, like, oh, where are you at now? And we work with you, and like, oh, you have a customer that needs this. Like, you'd be surprised what comes out of those kind of events. I think people don't understand, to your point, that like sales is relationships. And if it's someone and you need a meeting, you can, use that connection and say, listen, I'm in a new role. I'm trying to get on your radar. Like, you owe me one from this other thing from 10 years ago, like, don't be afraid to pull those favors
Yep.
because they're going to pull them right back. And then eventually you're going to get a great deal together and hopefully repeat it over and over and over.
You never know where a relationship can go.
Never
That's for
know.
sure. Uh, I can keep going on and on, but this is really great, Marsha. You are just you're a wealth of knowledge and just a wealth of personality, which really sums up how and why your career has been successful as it has been. And I feel very privileged to have had this conversation with you. I'm glad that my audience has been able to share this time with you. And I thank you so much for joining us.
Right back at you. Thank you for having me and listening to me ramble. And I hope everybody gets something out of this. And Howard is amazing. So follow everything that he does because he's usually right about everything.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you all for joining us. There's so much to take away from this conversation. Relationships are key. And think really as we wound up at the end, it's not just the prospect and the clients, it's your team, it's developing relationships with that clients. It's not just a one-off contract, that's something that renews on a regular basis because there's that trust factor throughout and there's a give and take back and forth. So there really develops a real relationship and friendship as opposed to just someone who is sending over a check or a credit card at different periods of time. But working with the right people and mentoring them and having good leadership that really concerns about you and not just the dollars that you're bringing in is so much more important than the numbers themselves. But that relationship can really develop, if not in this situation, people go in different directions. You never know what's gonna happen along the way. So take all this and then some in mind. Go out, have a great rest of today, and we will see you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Sales Momentum. I hope you picked up valuable insights to fuel your sales success. If you're ready to take your sales game even further, visit howardwolpoffswc.com for coaching, resources, and more strategies to help you close more deals and build lasting momentum. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and keep pushing forward. Until next time, keep selling with confidence.